Hello. I thought I would tell you a story about Swami Kriyananda, and this is from my own life. It happened between 1985 going through about 1988. And what happened was that during that, before 1985, I had been the music minister at Ananda Village, working with small groups and choirs. And about a year or so before 1985, Swami had gone on a personal pilgrimage to the Holy Land and had written subsequently an oratorio based on his experiences in the holy shrines. And the oratorio was called at that time, Christ Lives in the Holy Land and in You. So he had the idea to take a second pilgrimage to the Holy Land with a choir, singing all of the beautiful choral pieces that he had written in the actual shrines where they were inspired. And so it was my job to train up the choir, and some of the people going on the pilgrimage had never sung before. So it was quite interesting. But we had a beautiful pilgrimage, many inspiring moments, very beautiful experience. And we closed the pilgrimage by taking a short pilgrimage to Assisi, Italy, and visiting all the shrines and holy places of St. Francis's life. While we were in Italy, Swamiji asked me to stay in Italy, not to return to the United States. And I was shocked. For one thing, I had very carefully packed clothes that I was ready to be done with. I was planning to leave them for friends in Italy because I had been doing Christmas shopping in the Holy Land and in Italy, and I was planning to fill my suitcases with all of these purchases. And so I didn't have much with me. And I wore those same old clothes for the whole time I lived in Italy, which was close to 2 years, more like a year and a half maybe. But anyway, also I did not speak a word of Italian. And in 1985, most Italians didn't speak English. It was very rare that I would come across someone who spoke my language. And I had a very difficult time learning Italian. I had a block against it because some of my relatives were Italian, and on and on. So it was just a setup for a very, very difficult period in my life. And so I was definitely going to do it. I was asked to do it. I felt a duty and a loyalty to do what was asked of me. But I remember standing in the airport, seeing Swamiji off to have him go back to Italy, and I was not on that flight. And tears were streaming down my face. And he looked at me and said, "Nirmala, what is your problem? Italy is a civilized country." Well, it didn't seem so to me when I couldn't speak the language. That was very uncivilized. But as it worked out, it was quite difficult. I had a car in the United States, and getting that taken care of did not work out well for me. And all of my possessions. My little cabin was not very secure from wildlife, and so that did not work out very well. It was pretty traumatic on many, many levels. I had a lot of sickness while I was in Italy, a very difficult period. Well, fast forward to then early 1988, and it was late 85, early 88 that I returned to the United States with no place to live. What little possessions I had were in shambles. I had no car, and so much had changed in Ananda Village in America from when I had lived there before. And when we lived in Italy, we were very, very poor. I remember we couldn't afford eggs or butter. We lived on these little loaves of bread that were sort of shaped like a torpedo, and they were about that big. And that was breakfast. No butter, but a very cheap, sugary jam, and not very nutritious. So when I got back to Ananda Village, prosperity had been flourishing there. People even had dishwashers. It was quite scandalous for me, having been in this sort of St. Francis consciousness. Anyway, as I returned, I was again pretty traumatized with not really having any close friends. My closest friends had moved away from Ananda Village and were in other centers at that point. And I was pretty shaken up. Finding a job was difficult. Finding a place to live was difficult. Not having a car was difficult. It was very challenging. So I remember a friend that I was starting to get closer to, took me out to dinner, and we were just sharing what had been happening in our lives over this period of time. And I mentioned to her that I had finally found a job, but it was in town, which is 16 miles away. And I definitely was going to, actually it was more like 20 miles away, because I lived at the old meditation retreat where I had found a little cabin, which was another story. It was infested with mice and rats. So that didn't last long. But anyway, I was telling her that I lived far away from my new job, and I needed a car, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And she pulled out her checkbook, and she said, "How much do you need?" I was shocked. I didn't even know that she had any kind of money. And so I told her, and she gave me a no-interest loan for as long as I needed. I could pay her back at $50 a month if I wanted to. And so I found myself car shopping. And a friend had told me what kind of car to get, so I managed to get a car myself. And I found a dwelling that was not infested with mice. And I, through my friend's generosity, was able to get a bed and a few things that I required. And after a couple of weeks at Ananda Village, I looked around and I realized that I had everything that I needed and more. God had replaced everything that was missing from my time of serving Him in Italy and more. And that lesson has stayed with me through all these years that I've been asked to do God's work in far-flung places. He provides. We don't need to worry. If we give our lives to Him, He takes care of us. And Swami Kriyananda knew that, and he knew that God was calling me to Italy. He said those words to me, that God was calling me to Italy. And so even though I didn't feel confident as though I could do it or wanted to do it, I still did it. I did what was asked of me. And through that experience, I grew exponentially. And so I tell you that story to give you confidence in even the things that seem difficult, that are necessary to do in your life, that you feel that God wants you to do. Trust in Him. Give Him your heart, and He will take care of your needs, just like He did for me when I came back to Ananda Village in 1988. He surrounded me with everything I needed. He worked through my friend to give me the money that I needed to recreate my life. And He will help you. Trust in Him. He's there for you.